Morphology, the words of language. Morphemes like ish, nes, li, dis, trans, and an are never words by themselves, but are always part of words. These affixes are bound morphemes. We know whether each affix precedes or follows other morphemes. Thus, uno, pre, for example, premeditate or prejudge, and bi, for example, bipolar and bisexual, are prefixes. They occur before other morphemes. Some morphemes occur only as suffixes, following other morphemes. English examples of suffix morphemes are followed by ing, for example, sleeping, eating, running, climbing, and er that has the examples of singer, performer, reader, and beautifier. For the ist or ist, they have typist, copyist, pianist, novelist, collaborationist, and linguist. And for the ly or li, has the examples of manly, sickly, spectacularly, and friendly, to mention only a few. Morphemes are the minimal linguistic signs in all languages, and many languages have prefixes and suffixes. But languages may differ in how they deploy their morphemes. A morpheme that is a prefix in one language may be a suffix in another, and vice versa. In English, the plural morpheme s is a suffix. For example, boys, machines, and diskettes. In isthmus, zapotec, on the other hand, the plural morpheme ka or ka is a prefix. For example, are zigi, chin, zike, shoulder, tiaga, ear, and for kazigi, chins, kazike, shoulders, and kadiaga, ears. Languages may also differ in what meanings they express through affixation. In English, we do not add an affix to derive a noun form from a verb. We have the verb dance as in I like to dance, and we have the noun dance as in the salsa is a Latin dance. The form is the same in both cases. In Turkish, you derive a noun from a verb with the suffix ok, as in the following examples. Dur, to stop, and bat, to sink. And if you add ak to these words, it will become dur plus ak or durak means stopping place, and bat plus ak or batak means sinking place or marsh or swamp. To express reciprocal action in English, we use the phrase each other as in understand each other, love each other. In Turkish, a morpheme is added to the verb. Anla means understand and sev means love. Anla plus sh or anlash means understand each other, and sev plus ish or ish, sevish, means love each other. The reciprocal suffix in these examples is pronounced as sh after a vowel and as ish or ish after a consonant. This is similar to the process in English in which we use a as the indefinite article morpheme before a noun beginning with a consonant, as in a dog, and an before a noun beginning with a vowel, as in an apple. We will discuss the various pronunciations of morphemes in Chapter 7. In Piro, an Arawakan language spoken in Peru, a single morpheme kaka can be added to a verb to express the meaning cause to. Kokuruha, to harpoon, and salwa means to visit. Kokuruha plus kaka or kokuruha kaka, cause to harpoon, and salwa plus kaka or salwa kaka means cause to visit. A morpheme was defined as the basic element of meaning, a phonological form that is arbitrarily united with a particular meaning and that cannot be analyzed into simpler elements. Although it holds for most of the morphemes in a language, this definition has presented problems for linguistic analysis for many years. Consider words like cranberry, huckleberry, and boysenberry. The berry part is no problem, but huckle and boysen occur only with berry, as did cran until cran apple juice came on the market, and other morphologically complex words using cran followed. The boysen part of the boysenberry was named for a man named Boysen, who developed it as a hybrid from blackberry and raspberry. But few people are aware of this, and it is bound stem morpheme that occurs only in this word. Lukewarm is another word into two stem morphemes, with luke occurring only in this word because it is not the same morpheme as the name Luke. So if you have any questions regarding this topic, please hit me up or comment below on this video. Thank you. So the infixes. In this language, the infix or is inserted after the first consonant of the noun or adjective. Thus, a speaker of Bontoc who learns that pusi means poor would understand the meaning of pumusi, to be poor, when hearing the word for the first time, just as an English speaker who learns the verb sneet would know that sneeter is one who sneets. English infixing has been the subject of the Linguist List, a discussion group on the internet. The interest in infixes in English is because one can only infix full word obscenities into another word, usually into adjectives or adverbs. The most common infix in America is the word fuekin and all the euphemisms for it, such as zriggin, frickin, flippin, and fuggin, as in injuguneritable, unfwiggin, unbelievable, or calamaflipinzoo, based in the city in Michigan. In Britain, a common infix is bloody, an obscene term in British English and its euphemisms such as lumen. Some languages have circumfixes, morphemes that are attached to another morphemes, both initially and finally. These are sometimes called discontinuous morphemes. In Chickasaw, a Muskogean language spoken in Oklahoma, the negative is formed with both a prefix ik or ik and the suffix o. The final vowel of the affirmative is deleted before the negative suffix is added. Examples of circumfixing are like this. Affirmative, Shokma means he is good. Lakna means it is yellow. Pali means it is hot. Tiwi means he opens it. In negative form, you just add ik and then shokum plus o. Then it'll read or sound like ik shokum o, which means he isn't good. Ik lakno means it isn't yellow. Ik palo means it isn't hot. Ik tivo means he doesn't open it. Morphologically complex words consist of a root and one or more affixes. A root is a lexical content, morpheme, that cannot be analyzed into smaller parts. Some examples of English roots are paint in painter, read in reread, and sieve in conceive. A root may not stand alone as a word. Paint does, sieve doesn't. In languages that have circumfixes, the root is the form around which the circumfix attaches. For example, the Chickasaw root shokum in ikshokmo, which means he isn't good. In infixing languages, the root is the form into which the infix is inserted. For examples, ficas in the Bontoc word fumikas, which means to be strong. A morpheme was defined as the basic element of meaning, a phonological form that is arbitrarily
Good day, I am Junaiza Ampuan, and I will be discussing rules of word formation. I never heard of amplification. Alice ventured to say, "What is it?" The Gryphon lifted up both its paws in surprise. "Never heard of amplifying," it exclaimed. "You know what to beautify is, I suppose?" "Yes," said Alice doubtfully. "It means to make anything prettier." "Well then," the Gryphon went on, "if you don't know what ugly is, you are a simpleton." Lewis Carroll and Alice in Wonderland. When the Mock Turtle listed the branches of arithmetic for Alice as ambition, distraction, amplification, and derision, Alice was very confused. She wasn't really a simpleton, since amplification was not a common word in English until Lewis Carroll used it. Still, most English speakers would immediately know the meaning of amplification, even if we had never heard or used the word before, because we know the meaning of its individual parts, the root ugly and the affixes ify and Asian. We said earlier that knowledge of morphology includes knowledge of individual morphemes, their pronunciation and their meaning, and the knowledge of the rules of combining morphemes into complex words. The Mock Turtle added ify to the adjective ugly and formed a verb. Many verbs in English have been formed in this way: purify, amplify, simplify, falsify. The suffix ify conjoined with nouns also forms verbs: objectify, glorify, personify. Notice that the Mock Turtle went even further. He added the suffix cation to uglify and formed a noun: uglification, as in glorification, simplification, falsification, and purification. So by using the morphological rules of English, he created a new word. The rules that he used are as follows. So the adjective plus ify to verb to make adjective. Verb plus cation to noun, the process of making adjective. So the derivational morphology. Bound morphemes like ify and cation are called derivational morphemes. When they are added to the root morpheme or stem, a new word with a new meaning is derived. The addition of ify to purify means to make pure, and the addition of ation to purification means the process of making pure. If we invent an adjective posy to describe the effect of static electricity on hair, you will immediately understand the sentence: "Walking on the carpet really pussified my hair," and the best method of pussification is to rub a balloon on your head. This means that we must have a list of the derivational morphemes in our mental dictionaries, as well as the rules that determine how they are added to a root or stem. The form that results from the addition of derivational morpheme is called a derived word. So the hierarchical structure of words. We saw above the morphemes are added in a fixed order. This order reflects the hierarchical structure of the word. A word is not a simple sequence of morphemes. It has an internal structure. For example, the word unsystematic is composed of three morphemes: un, system, and atic. The root is system, a noun to which we add the suffix atic, resulting in an adjective systematic. To this adjective, we add the prefix un, forming a new adjective unsystematic. So, in order to represent the hierarchical organization of words and sentences, linguists use tree diagram. The tree diagram for unsystematic is as follows. So, as you can see, that is the diagram. So, this tree represents the application of two morphological rules. Number one, Noun plus attic to adjective. Number two, un plus adjective to adjective. Rule 1 attaches the derivational suffix attic to the root noun forming an adjective. Rule 2 takes the adjective form by Rule 1 and attaches the derivational prefix un. The diagram shows that the entire word, systematic, is an adjective that is composed of an adjective systematic plus un. The adjective is itself composed of a noun system plus the suffix attic. Like the property of discreteness discussed earlier, hierarchical structure is an essential property of human language. Word and the sentence have component parts which relate to each other in specific rule-governed ways. Although the first glance it may seem that aside from order, the morphemes un and attic each relate to the root system in same way, this is not the case. The root system is closer to attic than it is to un, and un is actually connected to the adjective systematic and not directly to system. Indeed, unsystem is not a word. Further, morphological rules can be applied to the structure given above. For example, English has a derivational suffix al, as in egotistical, fantastical, and astronomical. In these cases, al is added to an adjective egotistic, fantastic, astronomic to form a new adjective. The rule for al is as follows. Number three, adjective plus al to adjective. Another affix is ly, which is added to adjectives happy, lazy, hopefully to form adverbs happily, lazily, hopefully, following the rule for ly. Number four, adjective plus ly is adverb. So applying these two rules to the derived form unsystematic, we get the following three for unsystematically. So this is the diagram. So as you can see, that is the diagram. This is rather complex word. This is a rather complex word. Despite its complexity, it is well formed because it follows the morphological rules of the language. On the other hand, a very simple word can be ungrammatical. Suppose in the above example, we first added un to the root system. That would have resulted in non-word unsystem. So as you can see in the diagram. Unsystem is not a possible word because there is no rule of English that allows un to be added to nouns. The large soft drink company whose ad campaign promoted the Uncola successfully flouted this linguistic rule to capture people's attention. Part of our linguistic competence includes the ability to recognize possible versus impossible words like unsystem and Uncola. Possible words are those that conform to the rules of morphology. Impossible words are those that do not. Tree diagram are the linguist's hypothesis of how speakers represent the internal structure of the morphological complex words in their language. In speaking and writing, we string morphemes together sequentially as in un plus system plus attic. As shown by the three diagrams, however, our mental representation of words is much more complex. The hierarchical organization of words is most clearly shown by the structurally ambiguous words, words that have more than one meaning by virtue of having more than one structure. Consider the word unlockable. Imagine you are inside a room and you want some privacy. You would be unhappy to find the door is unlockable, not able to be locked. Now imagine you are inside the locked room, trying to get out. You would be very relieved to find that the door is unlockable, able to unlock. These two meanings correspond to different structure as follows. So these are the structures. In the first structure, the verb lock combines with the suffix able to form an adjective lockable, able to be locked. Then the prefix un, meaning not, combines with the derived adjective to form a new adjective unlockable, not able to be locked. In the second case, the prefix un combines with the verb lock to form a derived verb unlock. Then the derived verb combines with the suffix able to form unlockable, able to be locked, to be unlocked. An entire class of words in English follows these patterns: unbuttonable, unzippable, and unlatchable, among others. The ambiguity arises because the prefix "uncan" combined with an adjective as illustrated in Rule 2 above, or it can be combined with a verb as in undo, unstaple, unearth, and unloosen. So more about derivational morphemes. Derivational morphemes have clear semantic content. In this sense, they are like content words, except that they are not words. As we have seen, when a derivational morpheme is added to a root or stem, it adds meaning. The derived word may also be of a different grammatical class than the original word, as shown by suffixes such as able and ly. When a verb is suffixed with able, the result is an adjective, as in desire plus able, adore plus able. When the suffix en is added to an adjective, a verb is derived as in dark plus en. One may form a noun for an adjective, as in sweet plus ie. Other examples are, so these are the examples. So another examples. So not all derivational morphemes cause change in grammatical class, as you can see. So another, many prefixes fall into the category. So these. There are also suffixes of this type. You can see. So when a new word enters the lexicon with the application of morphological rules, other complex derivation may be locked. For example, when commune plus ist enter the language, words such as commune plus ite, as in Trotsky plus ite, or commune plus ian, as in grammar plus ian, were not needed and were not formed. Sometimes, however, alternative forms coexist. For example, Chomskyan and Chomskys, and perhaps even Chomsky, all meaning follower of Chomsky's views of linguistics. Linguist and linguician are both used, but the possible word linguite is not. So lexical gaps. The redundancy of alternative forms such as those mentioned, all of which conform to the regular rules of formation, may explain some of the accidental or lexical gaps in lexicon. Additional accidental gaps are well-formed but non-existing words. The actual words in the language constitute only a subset of possible words. Speakers of the language may know tens of thousands of words. Dictionaries, as we know, that include hundreds of thousands of words, all of which are known by some speakers of the language. But no dictionary can list all possible words, since it is possible to add to the vocabulary of a language in many ways. There are always gaps in the lexicon, words that are not in the dictionary, but that can be added. Some of the gaps are due to the fact that permissible sound sequence has no meaning attached to it, like blick or sire or grow. Note that the sequence of sounds must be in keeping with the constraints of the language. So other gaps result when possible combination of morphemes never come into use. Speakers can distinguish between impossible words such as insistent and speakly, and possible but non-existing words such as disobvious, linguistism, and antiquified. The ability to do this is further evidence that the morphological component of our mental grammar consists of not just a lexicon. a list of existing words, but also of rules that enable to create and understand new words and to recognize possible and impossible words. So, rules of productivity. Some morphological rules are productive, meaning that they can be used freely to form new words from the list of free and bound morphemes. The suffix able appears to the morpheme that can be conjoined with any verb to derive an adjective with the meaning of the verb and the meaning of able, which is something like able to be, as in accept, plus able to blame, plus able, past plus able, change plus able, breath plus able, adapt plus able, and so on. The meaning of able has also been given as fit for doing or fit for being done. The productivity of this rule is illustrated by the fact that we find able affixed to new verbs such as downloadable and flexible. So we have already noted that there is a morpheme in English meaning not that has the form un and that when combined with adjectives like afraid, fit, free, smooth, American, and British forms the antonyms and negatives of these adjectives. For example, the unafraid, unfit, un-American, and so on. Note that unlike able, un does not change the grammatical category of the stem it attaches to. We also saw that the prefix un can be added to derived adjectives that have been formed by the morphological rules. So this show, so as you can see. So we can also add un to morphological complex, verbs that consist of verbs plus a practical plus able, such as these words right here. So prefixation derives the following words. So these words right here. So yet, UN is not fully productive. We find happy and unhappy, cowardly and uncowardly, but not sad and unsad, brave and unbrave, or obvious and unobvious. The starred form that follow may be merely accidental gaps in the lexicon. If someone refers to a person as being unsad, we would know that the person referred to was not sad. An unbrave person would not be brave. But, as the linguist Sandra Thompson points out, it may be the case that the UN rule is most productive for adjectives that are themselves derived from verbs such as unenlightened, unsimplified, uncharacterized, unauthorized, undistinguished, and so on. Morphological rules may be more or less productive. The rule that adds an er to the verb is English to produce a noun meaning one who performed the action once or habitually appears to the very productive morphological rule. Most English verbs accept this suffix examiner, exam taker, analyzer, lover, hunter, predictor, and so forth. Or and er have the same pronunciation and are the same morpheme, even though they are spelled differently. Now consider the following. These are the following. In the morphological complex words that we have seen so far, we can easily predict the meaning based on the meaning of the morphemes that make up the word, and happy means not happy, and acceptable means fit to be accepted. However, one cannot always know the meaning of the word. The words derive from free and derivational morphemes by knowing the morphemes themselves. Morphologically, complex words whose meaning are not predictable must be listed individually in our mental lexicons. However, the morphological rules must also be in the grammar, revealing the relation between words and providing the means for forming new words. So lastly, palate surprises. That speakers of a language know the morphemes of that language, and the rules for word formation is shown as much by the errors made by the non-deviant forms produced. Morphemes combine to form words. These words form a part of our internal dictionaries. Given our knowledge of the morphemes of the language and morphological rules, we may guess the meaning of a word we do not know. Sometimes we guess wrong. Amsel Green collected errors made by her students in vocabulary building classes and published them in a book called Pulitzer Prizes. The title is taken from the sentence written by one of her high school students. In 1957, Eugene O'Neill, who won a Pulitzer Prize. What is most interesting about these errors is how much they reveal about the student's knowledge of English morphology. Consider the creativity of these students in the following example. So these are the examples. So as you can see, so the students who use the word indefatigable is the sentence, she tried many reducing diets but remained indefatigable, clearly shows morphological knowledge. In meaning, not as the ineffective, de meaning of as the decapitate, fat as in fat, able as in able, and combined meaning not able to take the fat off. So that is the rules of word.
Good day, everyone. I am Angelie from Bacalso, and today we'll be discussing the sign language morphology. So let's begin. Sign languages are rich in morphology. Sign languages have root and affix morphemes, free and bound morphemes, lexical content and grammatical morphemes, derivational and inflectional morphemes, and morphological rules for their combination to form sign words. So this image below illustrates the derivational process in ASL that is equivalent to the formation of the nouns comparison and measuring from the verbs compare and measure in English. Everything about the root morpheme remains the same except for the movement of the hands. So these are the sign languages. And I don't know what are these, but I think sign languages would look like this. So let's continue. Word coinage. Word coinage is a process by which new words are invented through combining, rearranging, or borrowing words from different origins. So I think it is clear that word coinage is combining, rearranging, and borrowing words. Through combining and rearranging and borrowing words, we will be able to create a new word that is added to our lexicon. Compounds. Two or more words joined together to create a new word. So like this one, bittersweet. So this is an example of compound. Bittersweet, a pleasure accompanied by suffering or regret. This word is usually used when when your loved one when it is the departure of your loved one, and you will say this is what is that again? When you say goodbye, I mean leaving is a sweet sorrow. I forget about that. Anyway, bumbershoot is the slang word for umbrella. Poorhouse, a place maintained at public expense to house needy or dependent persons. Headstrong, stubborn. So instead of saying stubborn to someone, you might say, you're such a headstrong. And spoon feed, to feed by means of a spoon. Pickpocket, a thief who picks pockets. I know someone who is a pickpocket in the movie Gotham. Um, Her name was Selena Kyle. Yeah, she's a friend of Bruce Wayne. Let's continue. Okay. When the two words are in the same grammatical category, the compound will be in this category. So if the two words joined together have the same grammatical category like this, girlfriend, girl is a noun and friend is a noun. So the word girlfriend will be in the noun category. Fighter, bomber, paperclip, elevator operator, landlord, mailman. And adjective plus adjective, icy cold, red hot, and worldly wise. Take note that compounds are variously spelled with dashes, spaces, or nothing between the individual words. Yeah, like this one, girlfriend. There's no dash here. And paperclip has space in the middle of the two words. So there's no constant spelling in compound words. In English, the rightmost word in a compound is the head of the compound. So the rightmost word in a compound is the head of the compound. So let's make this an example. Okay, this one. When the two words have different grammatical category, okay, maybe this one. So the rightmost in this compound word is the strong. So the word headstrong will be belonged to the adjective category because strong is an adjective and the rightmost word in the compound word. Okay. The head is the part of the word or phrase that determines its broad meaning and grammatical category. When the two words fall into different categories, the class of the second or final word will be the grammatical category of the compound. So, as I've said earlier, the rightmost word of a compound will determine the head of the compound word. Headstrong, stubborn, watertight, of such tight construction as to be impermeable to water except when under sufficient pressure, lifelong, lasting, or continuing through life. Verb plus noun equals noun, so like this one. These words are also an example of um, a compound word that the compound words that have different grammatical category. Pick is a verb and pocket is a noun. So pickpocket, a thief who picks pockets. Pinch penny, niggard. Daredevil, a recklessly bold person. A recklessly bold person. Sawbones is a slang word of physician or surgeon. Okay. Compounds formed with a preposition are in the category of the non-prepositional part of the compound, like this one. Like these examples: overtake, hanger on, undertake, sundown, afterbirth, downfall, and uplift. Though two-word compounds are the most common in English, it would be difficult to state an upper limit. Yeah, so English has always been a complex language. The grammatical structure of English is always so complex. So like, let's try to look at these examples. Three-time loser. So there are three words here, and in this group of words there is a dash in the middle, and here there is only a space. Four-dimensional spacetime. Sergeant at arms, mother of pearl, man about town, master of ceremonies, daughter-in-law. Spelling does not tell us what sequence of words constitutes a compound, whether a compound is spelled with a space between the two words, with a hyphen, or with no separation at all, depends on the idiosyncrasies of the particular compound, as shown, for example, in blackbird, gold tail, and smokescreen. Meaning of compounds. The meaning of a compound is not always the sum of the meanings of its parts. Like, for example, blackboard. There are some blackboard which is green or white. So this is a good example. Other compounds reveal other meaning relations between the parts, which are not entirely consistent because many compounds are idiomatic. So like this one, a boathouse is a house for boats, but a cat house is not a house for cats. It is slang for a house of prostitution or whorehouse. So in Tagalog, I think this is ano yun, bahay ng mga puts. Okay, let's continue. Other examples: jumping bean, bean that jumps; falling star, star that falls; magnifying glass, glass that magnifies; looking glass, not a glass that looks. So this one is, I think, this does not belong to idiomatic, but this is a good example for this one. Oh my God, where am I? Okay. Eating apple, not an apple that eats. Yeah, eating apple does not mean that there is an apple that eats. Laughing gas, not a gas that laughs. So English has always been a complex language. It's so annoying sometimes, but it's fun. Okay, peanut oil, an oil made from peanut. Olive oil, an oil made from olive. Baby oil, an oil for babies, not an oil made from babies. Horse meat, meat from horses. Dog meat, meat for dogs, not meat from dogs. Hunchback, person with a humpback. But flat foot is not a foot that is flat. It is a slang word for policeman or detective. Compounding is a common and frequent process for enlarging the vocabulary of all languages. So compounding has a great contribution to the enlargement of the vocabulary of the English language. Not just English, I think. Acronyms, words derived from the initials of several words. So like this one. Radar, from radio detecting and ranging. Laser means light amplification by stimulated emission of radiation. Scuba, self-contained underwater breathing apparatus. Rock formations, a new word may enter the language because of an incorrect morphological analysis. Yeah, I have watched a video on YouTube when this vlogger um, talks about how Filipino comprehend the word conyo. It's a Spanish word. It's a Spanish word for a vagina, but Filipinos comprehend it as a um, yeah, it's an adjective used for rich people. Like when you say Someone is aesthetic and you would say, "Oh, you're so conyo." Or when people speak English and combine it with Tagalog or Taglish, they will say, "Oh my God, you're so conyo." But in Spanish, it means vagina. So I think that is also a back formation. So these are the example. The origin word is resurrection, and the new found word is resurrect. So resurrect is actually not was actually not a word. It's just a word comes from its origin, which is resurrection. Oh, okay. Resurrection, resurrect, editor, edit, television, televise. Abbreviations are a shortened form of a written word or phrase used in place of the whole word or phrase. Okay, like this one. Advertisement, ad, professor, prof, mathematics, math, disrespect, this. Yeah, this one, this, this word is famous in the America. Radical, rad. This process is also called as clipping. Yeah, clipping. Like you are cutting the words, you're shortening the words in the that can be used as a as an independent word. Words from names. So eponyms are words derived from proper names and are another of the many creative ways that the vocabulary of a language expands. Willard RSP has compiled a book of 1,500 such words. So 1,500. So it is 1,500 words. And it's so noisy here. So I have this example, Brobdingnagian, marked by tremendous size. Brobdingnagian, I has been using this word when I want to describe something that is so massive and big. So as I browsed it, this was actually derived from The Imaginary Land of Giants in Gulliver's Travels by Jonathan Swift. Who is Jonathan Swift? Is this Taylor Swift's brother? Yeah, I think. Sandwich, named for the fourth Earl of Sandwich, who put who oh my God, I can't drink. Who put his food between two slices of bread so that he could eat while he gobbled. So because of the fourth Earl of Sandwich who put his food between two slices of bread so that he could eat while he gobbled, sandwich was created. Blends. Blends are similar to compounds, but parts of the words that are combined are deleted, so they are less than compounds. So these are the words smoke and fog and smog. So these are the blended words. Lit and slimy, slipping. Chuckle and snort, chortle. Yeah, this is I have one example and it's from the Harry Potter. This word Gryffindor. It's like a house or a section of the students. Griffin is like a creature that is half an eagle and half a lion. Half lion and half eagle. And door means gold. So Gryffindor means golden griffin. Okay. Lewis Carroll, author of the famous Alice in Wonderland and Alice Through the Looking Glass. Oh my God, I wasn't able to capitalize this letter L. Is famous for both the coining and the blending of words. So Lewis Carroll is one of my favorite authors, and I just, I just found it right now that he was actually famous for coining and blending of words. Okay. Carol's portmanteaus are what we have called blends. and such words can become part of the regular lexicon. Blending is even done by children. The blend crocalgator from crocodile and alligator is attributed to 3-year-old Elijah Berry. And I have also created a blend, which is the word as joy. When you feel like you're happy but you're ashamed at the same time. And you usually feel it when you are complimented by someone and feel happy but you're embarrassed at the same time. So I am as joy. Okay, so that's it for today, guys. Um, Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned something from this lesson. Thank you.
Good day, everyone. This is Ryann M. Ampuan, and I am tasked to discuss the topic grammatical morphemes. So, what is grammatical morpheme? The grammatical morphemes are the smallest units of meaning in a language that comprise of practical and useful words in a language, such as prepositions, conjunctions, determiners, and pronouns. For example, and, but, or, above, on, into, after, that, the, and etc. In the discussion of derivation morphology, we saw that certain morphemes such as sieve or meet have meaning only when combined with other morphemes in a word. For example, transmit, remit, receive, and deceive. Similarly, there are morphemes that have meaning only in combination with other words in a sentence. The main difference between a morpheme and a word is that the morpheme sometimes does not stand alone, but the word always stands alone. So, this is the example of grammatical morphemes. Um, these are the example, these are the grammatical morpheme, and this is the example. In other words, those words that functions and remain in specific to define the relationship between one word morpheme and another words like at, in, ion, ed, s are called grammatical morpheme. Inflectional morphemes. Function words like to, eat, and be are free morphemes. Many languages, including English, also have bound morphemes that have strictly grammatical function. They mark properties such as tense, number, gender, case, and so forth. Such bound morphemes are called inflectional morphemes. They never change the syntactic category of the words or morphemes to which they are attached. And now, this is the example of the inflectional morphemes. This one, the same as the example of grammatical morpheme, and then these are their example. And and that's all. Thank you so much.
So good day everyone, my name is Renan Alalag and this is my report about morphological analysis about identifying morphemes. Speakers of a language have the knowledge to perceive the components morphemes of a words since their mental grammars include a mental lexicon of morphemes and a morphological rule for their combination. Of course, there are mistakes while learning but these are quickly remedied. Suppose you didn't know English and were a linguist from the planet Mars wishing to analyze the language. How would you discover the morphemes of English? How would you determine whether a word in that language had one, two, or more morphemes? So the first thing to do would be to ask a native speaker how they say various words. It would help to have a Martian English interpreter along, otherwise copious gesturing as in order. Assume you are talented in mimic and manage to collect the following sets of paradigm of forms. For example, adjective and its meaning. Adjective ugly means very unattractive. Uglier meaning more ugly, and ugliest means most ugly. Moreover, adjective prettier means more nice looking. Prettiest means most nice looking. Adjective tall means large in height. Taller means more tall, and tallest means most tall. To determine what the morphemes are in such a list, the first thing a field linguist would do is to see if there are forms that means the same thing in different words, that is, to look for recurring form. We find them ugly occurs in ugly, uglier, ugliest, alter of which word include the meaning very and attractive. We also find that er occurs in prettier and taller, adding the meaning more to the adjective to which it is attached. Similarly, est adds the meaning most. Furthermore, by asking additional question of our English speaker, we find that er and est do not occur in isolation with the meaning of more and most. We can therefore conclude that the following morphemes occur in English. So the adjective ugly, pretty, and tall are root morphemes, while the er and the est are both bound morphemes. The difference between the two is that the er is an comparative while the est is an superlative. So as we proceed, we find the other words that end with er. Example, singer, lover, bomber, writer, and teacher, in which the er endings that not means comparative. We go on and find like number, somber, amber, butter, and member, and many other in which the er has no separate meaning at all. A somber is not one who summed, and a member does not mem, and therefore this word must be monorphemic, which means only one morpheme. Once you have practiced on the morphology of English, you might want to go on to describe another language. A language called Paco was invented by a linguist for an old 1970s TV series called Land of the Lost. This was the language used by the monkey people called Paconi. Suppose you find yourself in this strange land and attempted to find out what the morpheme of Paco were. Again, you would collect your data from a native Paco speaker and proceed as the Martian did with English. Consider the following data from the Paco. So, me means I, mini means we. So, ye, you in singular, and yeni, you in plural. So, in we, meaning he, wini means they in masculine. So, wa meaning she, wani means they in feminine. Abuma means girl, abumani means girls. Adusa means boy, means adusani means boys. Abu means child, and abuni means children. Paku means one Paco, and pakuni means more than one Paco. By examining these words, you would find that all the plural forms end in ni and the singular forms do not. You therefore conclude that ni, that ni or ni, is a separate morpheme, meaning plural that is attached as a suffix to a noun. So by examining this word, you find that all the plural forms end in ny or ni and the singular forms do not. So it means that if the words end with ni or ni, we can conclude that these words is plural if we base it in Paco language, and if it is not, then it is singular. You therefore conclude that ni or ni is a separate morpheme, meaning plural that is attached as a suffix to a noun. Well, these are rather simple examples of how one proceeds to conduct a morphological analysis. The principles remain the same, and by studying them, you are on the need to becoming a morphologist. Additionally, the study of words formation and internal structure of verbs is called morphology. So that's all, and thank you everyone, and God bless you all.
Hello everyone, I am Crisson as Bayona, and I'll be the one who is going to discuss content words and function words. So the contents for our topic today are what are content words, what are function words, and the differences between function words and content words. So to start with, what are content words? So content words. Noun, verbs, adjectives, and adverbs are content words. These words denote concepts such as objects, actions, attributes, and ideas that we can think about, like children, anarchism, sword, and purple. Content words rather are sometimes called the open class words because we can regularly do add new words to these classes. A new word is stenography, which is the art of hiding information in electronic text, entered English with the internet revolution. Verbs like disrespect and download entered the language quite recently, as have nouns like bite and email. So examples, this is an example of content words. So different language just rather may express the same concept using the words of different grammatical classes. For example, in Akan, the major language of Ghana, there are only a handful of adjectives. Most concepts that would be expressed with adjectives in English are expressed by verbs in Akan. Instead of saying, the sun is bright today, an Akan speaker will say, the sun brightens today. To continue, what are function words? Function words are sometimes called closed class words. So, unlike content words, which is an open class, the function words now is closed class. It is difficult to think of a new conjunction, prepositions, and pronouns that have recently entered the language. The small set of personal pronouns such as I, me, mine, he, she, and so on are part of this class. With the growth of the feminist movement, some proposals have been made for adding a neutral singular pronoun that would be neither masculine nor feminine and that could be used as the gender or genetic form. Examples for function words. There are other classes of words that do not have clear lexical meaning or obvious concepts associated with them, including conjunctions such as and or and but, prepositions such as in and of, the articles the, allen, and pronouns such as it and he. These kinds of words are called function words because they have a grammatical function. For example, the articles indicates whether a noun is definite or indefinite, the boy or a boy. The preposition of indicates position as in the book of yours, but this word indicates many other kinds of relations too. So let's go to the differences between function words and content words. The difference between content words and function words is illustrated by the following test that circulated recently over the internet. So please count the number of F in the following text. So finished files are the result of years of scientific study combined with the experience of years. So if you're like most people, your answer will be 3. But that answer is wrong. The correct answer is 6. Count again. This time, pay attention to the function word of. With this little test illustrates is that the brain treats content and function words differently. Indeed, there is a great deal of psychological and neurological evidence to support this claim. So, the two classes of words also seem to function differently in the slips of the tongue produced by the normal individuals. For example, the effect that we just illustrated with the OF test is much more pronounced in brain damaged people. As discussed in Chapter 2, some brain damaged patients have greater difficulty in using, understanding, or reading function words than they do with content words. Some are unable to read function words like in or which, but can read the lexical content words in and which. Other patients just do the opposite. So for example, a speaker may inadvertently switch words producing the journal of the editor instead of the editor of the journal. But the switching or exchanging of function words has not been observed. So in the early stages of development, children often omit function words from their speeches or speech. For example, doggy barking. So these two classes of words have different functions in language. So the major difference between content and function is that content words are semantic content. So they focus on the meaning. But function words play a grammatical role. They connect the contents words to the larger grammatical content. So they connect the meanings. They connect each meanings in a larger grammatical context. So that would be all. Thank you for listening. I hope you understand. Goodbye. So hello everyone, it's me again, Crisson as Bayona, and I will be discussing the summary of the morphology, the words of language. So as I've said, I'll be summarizing everything. So this would be my content, the summary. Knowing a language means knowing the words of the language, of that language. I mean, that would be a certain fact, right? When you know a word, you know both its form, its sound, and its meaning. They are inseparable parts of the linguistic science. The relationship between form and meaning is arbitrary. That is, by hearing the sound or its form, you cannot know the meaning of those sounds without having learned it previously, right? Each root, inflectional, and derivational morpheme is stored in your mental lexicon with information on its pronunciation, monological presentation, its meaning, its semantic properties, and its syntactic category. Also contained in the lexicon are morphological complex words whose meanings are unpredictable. For literate speakers, its spelling or orthography will also be present. In spoken language, words are not separated by pauses or space as in written language. One must know the language in order to segment the stream of speech into separate words. Words are not the most elemental sound meaning units. Also, some words are structurally complex. The most elemental grammatical units in the language are morphemes. A morpheme is the minimal unit of linguistic meaning or grammatical function. Thus, moralizers, in an English word composed of four morphemes, moral plus iz plus er plus s. The study of word formation and the internal structure of words is called morphology. Parts of our linguistic competence includes knowledge of morphology in language. Morphemes combine according to the morphological rules of the language. A word consists of one or more morphemes. Lexical content morphemes that cannot be analyzed into smaller parts are called root morphemes. When a root morpheme is combined with affix morphemes in a form of stem or word, other affixes can be added to a stem to form a more complex stem which may also be a word. Some morphemes are bound in that they must be joined to other morphemes, are always parts of words and are never words by themselves. Most morphemes are free in that they need to be attached to other morphemes like free, king, serf, and boar are free morphemes. Other examples would be dom as in freedom, kingdom, serfdom, and boredom is a bound morphemes. Affixes, that is prefixes, suffixes, infixes, and circumfixes are bound morphemes. Prefixes occur before suffixes, after infixes in the middle of, and circumfixes are stems or roots. Some morphemes like huckle in huckleberry and sieve and perceive and receive have constant phonological form but meanings determined only by the words in which they occur. They are also bound morphemes. Lexical content or root morphemes constitute the major word classes: nouns, verbs, adjectives, adverbs, and adverbs. There are open classes items because their clusters are easily added to. So morphemes may be derivational or inflectional. Morphological rules are rules of word formation. Derivational morphemes, when added to a root or stem, may change the syntactic word class and or. The meaning of and or the meaning of the word. For example, adding ish to the noun boy derives an adjective and a prefixing on to pleasant changes the meaning by adding a negative element. So inflectional morphemes are determined by the rules of syntax. They are added to complete words, whether simple monomorphemic words or complex polymorphemic words. So these words with more than one morpheme. Inflectional morphemes never change the syntactic category of the word. Grammatical morphemes or function words constitute a closed class, that is, new function words that do not enter the language. So as I have discussed from the other part, so grammatical morphemes, since function words are in the grammatical concept and content words are in the syntax or the semantics or the meaning itself. Continuing, function words and bound inflectional morphemes are inserted into sentences according to the syntactic structure. The past tense morpheme, often written as ed, is added as a suffix to a verb, and then the future tense morpheme will is inserted in a sentence according to the syntactic rules of English. There is a continuum of languages determined by how much they rely on morphology to express linguistic relations. English has relatively little reliance on morphology compared to Mohawk, in which a word equals a sentence. Between English and Mohawk are languages like Swahili and Italian, which use affixation for some but not all grammatical information. The grammars of sign languages also include a morphological component consisting of root, derivational, and inflectional sign morphemes and the rules of their combination. Grammars also include ways of adding words and morphemes to the lexicon. Words can also be combined outright, limited only by the coiner's imagination and the phonetic constraints of English word formations. Compounds are also a source of new words. Morphological rules combine two or more words to form complex combinations like lamb chop, deep sea diver, and laptop, a word spawned by the computer industry. Frequently, the meaning of compounds cannot be predicted by the meanings of their individual morphemes. Continuing to acronyms. Acronyms are words derived from the initials of several word like AWOL, which came into the language as the initials for away without leave. Blends are similar to compounds but usually combine shortened forms of two or more morphemes or words. Brunch, a late morning meal, is a blend of breakfast and lunch. Eponyms, words taken from proper names such as John for toilet or prostitute's customer. Back formations and abbreviations also add to the given stock of words. While the particular morphemes and the particular morphological rules are language dependent, the same general process occur in all languages. So you can hear and see how complex language really is. So that would be all for the summary. I hope you all learned something. Though this summary is already discussed in the previous video, right? So I hope you do enjoy. Thank you so much for listening. I am Crisson Bayona. Goodbye.